Hi, and welcome back. Last week, I spent 3 days wandering around Superbooth. And in all fairness, I mostly went to meet people and enjoy myself, and not to run around trying to catch everything. Superbooth is a fun place, but with over 150 exhibitors, there's a lot to see, hear and catch. So there are for sure jams I missed, and even manufacturers I haven't spoken to at all. But here are 10 eurorack modules that caught my eye. The first one is a collaboration between Endorphin.es and musician Andrew Huang, called Ghost. There's nothing completely groundbreaking here to be fair, but the module feels like Huang made a big wish list of functions and features, and Endorphins just said, sure, we can make that happen. It contains a multimode filter, delay, reverb, compressor and sidechain processing, all in stereo, and with good hands-on control, as well as CV inputs for most functions. The routing button lets you select the way the filter, delay and reverb are trained in series, and holding it gives you access to a bunch of shift functions like the tone of the delay and reverb pre-delay. The filter is set up like the ones you often find on drum machines and DJ equipment, where the center position has no filtering, one direction gives you high pass and the other direction low pass filtering. So there's a lot of sound design to discover in a single module, and I think this is very interesting for anyone looking to perform or create entire tracks with a compact modular system. The only thing I worry about is how performable the module will be when it's all patched up. Another module that caught my attention when it comes to stereo processing is the Neuzeit instrument Quasar, a binaural 3D audio processor. It's an interesting concept that gives you very detailed control over the spacing of your sound, not just panning it left and right, but also up and down, forward and backward in 3D space, using clever processing and effects. It has two mono inputs that can be routed to either or both positions via an internal matrix mixer. The positions can be controlled in detail using the screen and large aluminium knobs, but there are also internal LFOs for modulation, and two CV inputs that can be routed to any parameter within the module. There's an internal reverb that can enhance the effect of depth and high and low pass filtering for both incoming signals. So, for example, you can send the high end of a sound to a modulated moving position, but keep the low end of your track centered. I have to mention, the OLED screen is very stable in real life. I just couldn't get it right on the simple camera I brought. But this seems a lovely module if you like working for headphones or interested in spacious sonic explorations. Another interesting end-of-chain stereo module is the Knobula Kickhain. It offers a virtual analog 909 inspired kick, but with more sound shaping options. For example, it offers a reverb which is crafted in such a way that even longer settings don't smudge up the mix. Most exciting though is that you can run a stereo signal through the module, which could contain a mix of everything else going on in your track. The module applies sidechain to that signal and mixes in the kick drum, resulting in a finished stereo mix. Especially interesting is the little switch hiding in the top corner, offering different sidechain modes. There's a normal mode, just ducking the entire track when the kick hits, for that classic pumping sound. But the other two spectral modes offer more clever ways of compression. These respond to the frequencies of the incoming signal as well as the created kick drum. This gives you possibilities, for example, to only compress the low end of your track that is interfering with the kick, and leave the airy higher frequencies untouched. This seems a lovely compact module for everyone interested in making live kick-driven danceable goodness straight out of the modular. When I started messing around with modular, I often built voices based around a simple oscillator and filter and then added complexity through modulation. But this year there are quite a few new oscillators that are complete complex sound design tools on their own. One that stood out to me is the AtoV project Dual Harmonic Oscillator. If you ever mix two oscillators together and send the mix through a wave folder, you know that's a great idea. And that's exactly what this module does. But it goes way beyond. It holds 2 analog oscillators generating 4 octaves of triangle waves each, creating complex harmonics even before folding. Complexity can be enhanced by modulating or cross-modulating the oscillators with true 0 FM. The module offers outputs for the final mix, both oscillator mixes and all 8 harmonics. There is CV control over the volume of the harmonics, folding and frequency modulation. But where the module really breaks out is with its modulation system using algorithmic noise. This allows for internal modulation of almost every parameter and can be used to control the frequency of 10 internal LFOs. Turning the mod knob can create complex sounds and unpredictable results, but also let you return to clean settings. The only problem here is that the project is still in development and we might have to wait for quite some time before a final release date and price. An interesting oscillator that should hit the market sooner is the Chaos device's Sophia. It's an all-analog device based around a unique concept. In the middle you find classic oscillator controls like octave and pitch. But on each side there is what the creators call a ripple element that can modulate the waveform of the oscillator into creative complex territory. Each of the ripple elements have a ratio, shape and warp control, and you can sort of crossfade the amount the elements influence the main oscillator. There's proper CV control over all the aspects of the ripple elements as well as pitch and global FM. The ripple elements also have their own outputs, creating interesting self-patching possibilities. It's a big module for a single oscillator, but a complete sound shaping playground all on its own. Quite on the other side of the spectrum is a very compact and proudly digital oscillator from Bastl Instruments, called Pizza. This one is based around 3 internal oscillators, a main oscillator offering phase modulation, wavefolding and ring modulation, a sub-oscillator and a ratio oscillator used for detailed FM modulation. Of course, the modulation ratios can be manually set and modulated with CV. Beside the basic input, there's an assignable control knob with CV input, giving you access over things like folding, ring modulation and mod ratios. This means you can't modulate all parameters at once, but it does pack a lot of power in a compact space. What's also interesting is that the module offers the 3 different oscillator outputs. This opens a lot of additional options by mixing sounds before processing with other modules. And you can also use these for creative stereo sounds. If you've been watching my channel, you probably know I love utility modules. They are often the key in interesting patches and sound design. Here are 2 modules that stood out to me. Hiding somewhere in a field of silver, black and red is the new Verbos Electronics Polyphonic envelope. It holds 4 attack, hold, decay envelopes that each come with their own gate input as well as individual outputs and end pulse outputs. They share a single set of 3 controls though, which makes the module great for 4-node polyphonic setups, hence the name. I'm personally not so interested in modular polyphony though, but where the module hits the mark for me is the cascade input. This fires off the 4 envelopes in series without patching. This gets a lot more interesting because the module offers skew controls over each of the stages. This skew gets added or subtracted for each of the following envelope. So for example, you can have each of the chained envelopes have a slightly shorter attack and longer decay stage than the one before, and thus create 4 envelopes with related but different settings. These controls also have CV inputs, and of course you can still use the individual end of pulse outputs and gate inputs to manually patch single or multiple envelopes in series or in looping setups. All this makes the module great for complex rhythmic drones and interesting generative patches. Another utility module that opens up a lot of possibilities comes from Instruo, and I'm gonna let you pronounce the name all by yourself. It's a bit of a mixed bag of interesting features. It has a stereo input with gain, which can be used with clean recordings or things like pickup mics, or you can use the switch and use the built-in microphone as well. This input signal is split up into a left and right mono signal for further modular processing. Then there's an audio enhancer and an envelope follower with separate attack and decay settings, as well as a gate output based on the input for the follower section with a separate threshold control. Finally, there's a pedal input used to generate a gate, a trigger with adjustable duration and an on-off state that can be inverted on the module. The module is supplied with a little controller box that can be used as the pedal input, so you can start bashing buttons straight away. This module is a great interface for interaction with other people, sounds and actions outside of the modular. The next two picks are cheating a bit because they're more than just a module, but both projects I'm happy to mention. The first one is a collaboration between Synths and Moritz Klein, who came together to realize a series of affordable and easy to build DIY eurorack modules designed to teach people about the circuitry behind the faceplate. The latest addition to the series is a compact, straightforward 5-step sequencer, which is great for adding little tunes to the setup, but of course it can also be used for modulation. If you're in any way interested in learning about analog circuitry, make sure to check this series and the YouTube channel of Moritz Klein. He does a great job explaining how and why circuitry works, complete with lovely illustrations. The project itself is exciting to me though. I really hope this series ends up in the hands of a lot of teachers, kids and adults around the globe and spreads the joy of building synthesizers. Another project that caught my attention is also a collaboration between Eowave, Touellskouarn and composer and musician Yann Tiersen. I understood the project is in an early concept phase and aimed to also work as a standalone desktop unit, but it's also rack mountable, so I include it in this list. It's a full synth though, with 4 analog oscillators and an analog filter. Modulation comes in digital form with 2 envelopes and an LFO, and the module also offers digital noise. The oscillators are interesting as they come with a variety of modes and their own VCA, creating possibilities to play the synth paraphonically in different modes. So you can create chords or use 2 oscillators per key in a duophonic setup. There's even a polyphonic sequencer on board as well as a MIDI input. I'll be curious to hear what this unit can do in a more peaceful environment than Superbooth, and I hope they can keep the price somewhat competitive. But it already made a great impression, and with everyone involved, the project seems to be in great hands. If you want to learn more about modular synthesis, have a look at any of these playlists. Also, smash that like, subscribe and bell button if you want to support the channel. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching and see you next time.